The air crackled, thick with the stench of burning wood and the screams of a mother, swallowed by the hungry flames. No one moved. Not a soul dared to step forward. The inferno, a ravenous beast, had claimed its prey, and the town of Redemption stood frozen, paralyzed by fear and something far uglier, indifference. In the heart of the unforgiving West, where survival was a daily battle and judgment a constant companion, lay a small, ramshackle house on the edge of town. It was home to Sarah, a young woman weathered by hardship beyond her years, and her precious child, little Ethan. Sarah was a single mother, a label that carried a heavy burden in those days. She was an outcast, whispered about behind cupped hands, her every move scrutinized by the judgmental eyes of the community. Poverty clung to her like a second skin, and the meager income from sewing barely kept them afloat. Yet, she possessed a fierce spirit, a mother's unwavering love that burned brighter than any hardship. The house itself was a testament to her struggles: patched walls, a leaky roof, and a constant chill that seeped into the bones. But inside it was a sanctuary, filled with the warmth of her love and the innocent laughter of her child. That warmth, however, was about to be replaced by the searing heat of destruction. It was late, the moon a sliver in the inky sky when the fire began. A flickering dance of shadows, a crackling whisper that quickly escalated into a roaring inferno, perhaps a dropped lamp, a careless ember, or maybe just cruel fate. Whatever the cause, the flames quickly engulfed the wooden structure, turning it into a blazing pyre. Neighbors, roused from their sleep, stumbled out of their homes, their faces illuminated by the terrifying glow. They watched, hushed, their fear palpable. The screams of Ethan, trapped within the burning house, pierced the night, a heart-wrenching symphony of terror. Sarah, her face streaked with soot and tears, clawed at the door, screaming his name, her voice raw with desperation. "Ethan, my baby, somebody, please help me!" But the town, the very people who claimed to be pillars of the community, remained rooted to the spot. Fear, or perhaps something darker, held them captive. They stood there, frozen in place, as the flames consumed everything. The air grew thick with smoke, choking the life from the night. The house, once a symbol of Sarah's resilience, was now a tomb, and the silence of the onlookers was deafening. This night, in the heart of the American West, would test the limits of humanity, exposing the stark contrast between courage and cowardice, compassion and cruelty. And in the heart of the blaze, a stranger's decision would determine the fate of a mother and her child. The growing inferno, a monstrous entity of smoke and flame, cast elongated, dancing shadows that writhed across the faces of the onlookers. The air, now a suffocating blanket of heat and ash, made breathing a struggle. Sarah, her clothes singed and her face etched with a primal terror, continued to batter at the door, her desperate cries lost in the roar of the fire. The child's screams, once clear, were now muffled, a terrifying indication of the smoke's encroachment. However, amidst the gathering horror, a figure stood apart, silhouetted against the burning backdrop. He was a stranger, a man weathered by the harsh realities of the West, his features obscured by the shadows, yet his presence commanded attention. He had arrived in town only that very afternoon, a drifter passing through, seeking nothing more than a moment's rest. Now, he was witness to a tragedy unfolding before his very eyes. This stranger, a man named Caleb, was a man of few words, a loner accustomed to the solitude of the open plains. He was a man who had seen his share of hardship, a man who understood the fragility of life. But he was also a man grappling with a profound internal conflict. The sight before him was a stark representation of humanity's capacity for both good and evil. The burning house was a symbol of destruction, but the inaction of the crowd was, in its own way, equally devastating. He stood there, his gaze fixed on the inferno, weighing the options, the risks. The flames were a formidable foe, the house likely ready to collapse at any moment. Entering that inferno meant risking his own life, a life that, until that moment, had been of little consequence to anyone. But the alternative, to stand by and watch a mother and child perish, was a burden he wasn't sure he could bear. The silence of the townsfolk, their collective inaction, was a judgment in itself, a chilling testament to their fear and their apathy. Caleb's internal struggle was a battle between self-preservation and the call of conscience. It was a question of what it truly meant to be human, what values were worth fighting for. The flames danced before his eyes, mirroring the turmoil within his soul. The child's cries, though fading, continued to echo in the night, a desperate plea for help that cut through the surrounding silence. Furthermore, as the moments ticked by, the decision became ever more urgent, the consequences of inaction ever more dire. Now, consider how this applies when you face a moral dilemma of your own. What does it mean to stand by and watch? Caleb, wrestling with his internal demons, made his choice. The decision was not a sudden flash of bravery, but a slow, agonizing burn of conscience that finally consumed his fear. He saw the child's cries, now weaker, as a direct plea to his humanity. The inaction of the crowd, the chilling silence, was a challenge he could no longer ignore. He would not stand by and become another silent observer. He charged forward, his movements swift and decisive, a lone figure against the raging inferno. He was no hero. He was just a man making a choice. He plunged into the heart of the fire, the heat instantly searing his skin, the smoke choking his lungs. He moved through the inferno, a maelstrom of chaos and destruction, the flames licking at his clothes, the wooden beams groaning under the strain. The scene inside was a nightmare. The house, once a cozy dwelling, was now a furnace. He stumbled through the darkness, guided by the faint remnants of the child's cries. He called out, his voice hoarse, praying for a response. He navigated through the debris, dodging falling timbers and burning embers. Each breath was a struggle, each step a battle against the overwhelming force of the fire. Then he saw him. Ethan, small and terrified, huddled in a corner, his face streaked with soot and tears. Caleb, without hesitation, scooped the child into his arms, the weight surprisingly light. He wrapped his coat around the boy, shielding him from the worst of the heat. Now consider the weight of that moment, the burden of responsibility, the urgency of survival. Caleb, carrying the child, fought his way back through the flames, retracing his perilous path. The roof began to buckle, threatening to collapse at any moment. The heat was almost unbearable, his lungs burning with every breath. He was fighting against time, against the relentless advance of the fire, against the overwhelming odds. He emerged from the inferno, coughing and gasping, the child safe in his arms. He stumbled out of the house and laid the child on the ground, away from the flames. He turned back, driven by a desperate hope that Sarah was still alive. The risk was immense, the danger palpable, the fire consuming everything in its path. He charged back inside, searching blindly through the smoke. Time was running out. The house was about to collapse. Caleb, with a renewed surge of adrenaline, plunged back into the inferno, the air becoming an even more treacherous enemy. The roar of the flames was deafening, the heat an oppressive force that threatened to suffocate him. He had to act quickly, every second a gamble against the house's imminent collapse. His vision was obscured by thick smoke, forcing him to crawl, feeling his way through the burning wreckage. Furthermore, as he navigated the treacherous interior, he was no longer just a drifter. He was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the face of unimaginable devastation. The courage he had found, the sheer audacity to confront such danger, was a testament to the innate capacity for heroism that can reside within the most ordinary of individuals. Building on this, he searched frantically, calling out Sarah's name, his voice barely audible above the din. He stumbled over fallen beams, dodging pockets of intense heat that threatened to engulf him. The house groaned and shuddered around him, a symphony of destruction that underscored the urgency of his mission. He had to find her, had to pull her from the jaws of the inferno. Consequently, in the midst of the chaos, he saw a faint glimmer of movement, a flicker of life amidst the swirling smoke. There, trapped beneath a fallen beam, was Sarah. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear, but she was still conscious. He wasted no time ignoring the searing pain that shot through his body as he lifted the heavy timber, freeing her from her prison. Conversely, the act of rescue was not a calculated feat of strength. It was an act driven by raw determination and desperation. He dragged her from the wreckage, his strength tested to its absolute limit. The house, a raging inferno, was now threatening to completely collapse. Another crucial layer is the rapid descent of the house. As they stumbled out, the roof caved in with a thunderous crash, sending a shower of sparks into the night sky. They collapsed just outside the door, coughing and gasping for air, the fire licking at their heels. The escape was nothing short of a miracle, a testament to Caleb's bravery and Sarah's unwavering spirit. Now consider how this applies when you face a seemingly insurmountable challenge. Your courage, even in the face of overwhelming danger, can be the key to survival. The aftermath was a scene of stark contrast, a tableau of devastation and unexpected redemption. The once vibrant house was reduced to smoldering ruins, a testament to the fire's relentless power. Sarah, cradling her child, was a picture of both relief and profound shock, her face streaked with soot and tears, but her gaze fixed on Caleb, the man who had risked everything. Furthermore, the townspeople, who had stood by in silent judgment, now emerged from their homes, their faces a mix of shame and awe. The silence that had blanketed the town was broken by a chorus of hushed whispers, filled with a newfound respect for the stranger who had dared to defy their collective inaction. The air, thick with the acrid smell of smoke, now carried a different scent, a hint of contrition and the faint promise of change. Building on this, Caleb, leaning against a charred piece of timber, was a study in exhaustion. His clothes were tattered, his skin blistered, and his body ached with the physical toll of his ordeal. Yet, his eyes held a quiet strength, a profound sense of satisfaction that transcended the physical pain. He had faced down the inferno, not for glory or recognition, but because he couldn't live with the alternative. Consequently, the narrative of the event began to spread quickly, transforming the character of Caleb from a mere drifter into a symbol of courage and selflessness. The townsfolk, who had once shunned Sarah and her child, now offered assistance, their initial indifference replaced by a genuine desire to atone for their earlier failings. They provided food, shelter, and offered to rebuild the house, their actions a tangible expression of their changed hearts. Conversely, the fire, in its destructive fury, had also ignited a spark of hope, a realization of the interconnectedness of their community. The event served as a stark reminder that they were all bound together, their fates intertwined, and that compassion, though sometimes dormant, could be awakened even in the darkest of times. Now consider how this applies to the choices you make within your own communities. Your actions, even the smallest ones, have the power to reshape the environment around you. Another crucial layer is the subtle shift in the town's social dynamics. Sarah, once an outcast, was embraced by the community. The whispers of judgment were replaced by words of support and admiration. The child, previously ignored, was now the recipient of gifts and well-wishes. The fire, in its destructive power, had unwittingly broken down the barriers of prejudice, fostering a sense of unity and shared humanity. The immediate aftermath of the fire, though marked by destruction, also revealed the profound power of human resilience. Caleb, despite his injuries and exhaustion, became an unlikely symbol of hope. His actions, born not from a desire for fame, but from an innate sense of decency, had irrevocably altered the course of events. He had stared into the face of mortal danger and chosen to confront it, a testament to the indomitable spirit that can bloom even in the most desolate of landscapes. Furthermore, the incident served as a catalyst, exposing the underlying rot of indifference that had festered within the town's social fabric. The community, previously fragmented by prejudice and fear, was now forced to confront its own shortcomings. The silent judgment of Sarah and her child, the unspoken disdain, was laid bare in the stark light of the burning house. It was a reckoning, a moment of truth that forced the townsfolk to examine their own values and beliefs. Building on this, the transformation of the town was gradual but undeniable. The initial shock of the event gave way to a collective sense of responsibility. Neighbors who had once turned a blind eye now offered assistance with a newfound sense of purpose. They worked together to rebuild Sarah's home, their shared labor forging bonds of unity. The whispers of the past were replaced by conversations of support, and the town slowly began to heal. Consequently, the tale of Caleb's bravery spread like wildfire, reaching beyond the confines of redemption. It became a local legend, a story told around campfires, a reminder of the potential for heroism that lies within us all. The narrative served as a powerful moral compass, guiding future generations towards acts of kindness and courage. The incident became a permanent part of the town's history, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit could not be extinguished. Conversely, the story also served as a cautionary tale, a warning against the corrosive effects of prejudice and apathy. The townsfolk learned a harsh lesson about the consequences of inaction, the dangers of judging others, and the importance of community. They recognized that their collective silence had nearly resulted in a tragedy and vowed never to repeat their mistakes. Another crucial layer is the subtle yet significant shift in Caleb's own perspective. Before the fire, he was a drifter, a man detached from the world, content with his own solitude. The act of saving Sarah and Ethan, however, had changed him. It had given him a sense of purpose, a connection to humanity that he had never known. He was no longer just a loner. He was a hero, a man who had found meaning in the selfless act of saving others. Now consider how this applies when you face moments of doubt. Your own actions, however small, can inspire others and change the world around you. As the embers of the fire cooled and the smoke dissipated, a different kind of light began to emerge, illuminating the profound transformations that had taken root in redemption. The narrative we've traced, from the initial spark of peril to the aftermath of courage, unveils a complex tapestry of human experience where vulnerability and valor intertwine. The landscape of this story, once defined by isolation and judgment, has been reshaped not by the flames themselves, but by the choices made in their wake. Consider the weight of unspoken words, the invisible barriers that can divide a community. These are the foundations upon which the drama has been built, the unseen currents that shaped the characters' decisions. The evolving dynamics within the town, the gradual shift in the social currents, reveal the power of empathy and the devastating impact of apathy. Drawing these threads together, we see a powerful reminder of the fragility of existence, a stark portrayal of the human condition, and the inherent capacity within each individual to transcend their own limitations. The journey has been a reflection of the eternal struggle between darkness and light, between the instinct to withdraw and the impulse to connect. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider the echoes of this story. The events we have witnessed are not confined to a single time or place but resonate with a timeless truth. The narrative acts as a mirror, inviting us to examine our own lives, our own communities, and the choices we make when confronted with adversity. The essence of the unfolding events can be likened to a seed that, though seemingly insignificant, contains the potential for monumental growth. The fire, a destructive force, served as the harsh soil from which new life could emerge. The stranger's actions became the sunlight and water, nurturing the growth of compassion and courage. Reflecting on this journey so far, the audience is encouraged to consider the many layers that form the core of this remarkable tale. The story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a constant reminder of the power of empathy and the potential for transformation that exists within us all. The echoes of the burning house, the desperate cries, and the stranger's courageous act linger long after the flames have subsided. The story of redemption, of a community reshaped by fire and heroism, transcends the boundaries of time and location. It presents a potent lesson about the human experience and our inherent capacity for both profound darkness and extraordinary light. It reminds us that within each of us lies the potential to be a Caleb, to choose courage over fear, compassion over indifference. The narrative is a mirror reflecting our own moral compass, challenging us to examine the choices we make in the face of adversity. It prompts us to consider the power of community, the importance of empathy, and the devastating consequences of apathy. The story also underscores the fragility of life, the value of human connection, and the transformative power of a single act of bravery. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail. We find in this story a poignant exploration of how societal structures can be both a source of support and a breeding ground for prejudice. The town of redemption, with its unspoken rules and judgmental gaze, represents the societal pressures that can isolate individuals and stifle compassion. Yet, through the crucible of tragedy, the community is offered a chance for redemption, a chance to dismantle the barriers that had separated them. The rebuilding of Sarah's home is not merely a physical act, it is a symbol of the community's willingness to heal, to bridge the divides, and to forge a new path forward. The true measure of the tale, however, lies not in the specifics of the events, but in the enduring message it conveys. It is a call to action, a challenge to each of us to embrace our shared humanity. The hero's journey is not a solo expedition, it is a shared endeavor. The townsfolk, initially paralyzed by fear, ultimately find their voice, their compassion, and their ability to act. In this sense, The story is not simply about a stranger saving a mother and child. It is about the collective power of human connection, the ability of individuals to transform the world around them. The enduring impact of this narrative lies in its ability to inspire and provoke thought. It serves as a constant reminder that our actions have consequences, that our choices matter, and that we each have the power to create a more compassionate world. The true practice begins now, in the moments when we face our own challenges, in the decisions we make to act, and in the empathy we extend to those around us. The legacy of redemption is not merely a historical event. It is an ongoing invitation to embrace our shared humanity and to strive for a better future for all.